Greetings, Commanders. Welcome back to Legend of the Stars qualifying tournament number 3. We're all the way up to the semi-finals, but we're just waiting for those guys to get underway. So we're going to go back and have a look at Farm Sledger playing JaggedAppliance. Those guys were on Bermuda Locket as well. We just saw Zlo go down to Winston Smith on that map, so hopefully it's not an omen of things to come for unfortunate gameplay. Let's hope that these guys can pull some rabbits out of the hat and, well, give us some really, really fantastic matches like we saw earlier in the tournament. Alright, so before we get started, a big thank you again to Legend of the Stars for sponsoring this tournament. Thank you to everybody who is helping out, all the participants, the tournament director, and of course everybody who is here watching and making this a bit of an event. Alright, without any further ado, let's head into Bermuda Locket. And let's go. So let's just make this one a little bit faster because the game has completed and we're just waiting for those semi-finals to come around. Alright, Thistle Banger, not even sure how many power generators to build, and the answer from Jagged is yep, you should build yep power gens. That's right, so JaggedAppliance, he's going to go for 4, just 4. That's maybe a little bit light given the amount of reclaim that we're going to see. But anyway, he's got a first land factory up. We'll see a lot of power from him. And then in the red corner, we've got Thistlebanger opting for UEF. So we have got UEF mirror matchup. We can see he's got his first land factory down. He's going to go for a pretty substantial grid of power generators, which is what you want to see. And we can see he's going for a second and third air factories. I might even speed it up just a little bit more during the opening phase of this game because it is just a series of expansion. We're going to want to see these guys get as much power up and running as they possibly can, and that power is going to be used to fuel a couple of air factories, or at least one, depending on what Jagged decides to do. But that factory is going to have to produce a transport, and that's going to get some energies across one of these expansions. And whether they can pull it off or not is going to be a big deal. We saw that Zlo wasn't able to do it. His first transport was shot down by the interceptors, and that really cost him the game. It put his entire start off. His expansion was too slow. He then over-invested in T1, and it was just a really bad omen. So we can see now that Jagged is starting to get that T1 air factory underway. What is he going to put out of it first? Pop, I should say. It is going to be a first transport. We've got 4 engineers here waiting to go. Those guys are going to be the first participants in the new transport service by JaggedAppliance. And they're probably going to head up to the right island here. It looks like that is the case. It has been scouted though. We can see the scout goes overhead from Thistlebanger, so he will see that that's loaded up. Do we have an interceptor following? Well, actually we do. The first couple of units out was Scout, Interceptor, and that actually might be able to pick up the transport. It is catching up, it is laying down some fire. We can see some evasive maneuvers there from Jagged. Is it going to be enough to save the engineers? I suspect it might be. He is actually going to get those away. That is some very nice micro there, and he's going to get all 6 of those engineers safe and sound to their destination. We can see there is a transport underway here. It only has a few engineers on it though because of the extra resources that he has been poured into trying to dismantle that. And what is this? A fantastic bomb. It almost took out all 6. The engineers do split up now. The bomber just unable to catch them. Although they are clumped up, ooh, it looked for a second like they might inadvertently clump together enough to be taken out. And the last bomb goes away, and 2 of those engineers go down. So that's actually a very nice play from that one bomber. It took 5 of the 6 engineers that landed. We can see the engines are split up here. We've got 2 at this drop point, and we've got another couple down here at this drop point. It's going to be a little bit slower to get the first factory completed on this part of the island, but it will mean that he has a little bit more redundancy, and perhaps the production will be spread out a little bit more and be more resilient. Alright, we've got just a couple of interceptors floating around for each of these guys. If they force an air engagement, it will probably go the way of Thistlebanger. But at this point, well, actually, at this point it could matter because there could still be drops planned by Jagged. How is he going with that transport? Where is the transport? Did it get shot down? I think it probably did. Alright, we've got another transport out though for Thistlebanger. He's travelling around here just trying to make his way over the lumpy terrain to get those engineers to where? Where is he going with those? Not quite sure what the plan is with this, but anyway, there is a expansion engineer out here for Jagged. He's going to get a bunch more mass extractors. That's going to help his eco out just a little bit. Let's look at the mass incomes. We've got 49 for Jagged, 43, 51. Oh, it's bouncing all over the place with the reclaim that these guys are getting. We can see the NGs still all floating around, pulling up all of these rocks. Well, actually, there's more building than reclaim right now, but there's a lot available to them. Alright, the transport is getting caught out a little bit there for Thistlebanger, down to 150 HP. It's still taking fire. It's going to go down. And with, I think, was that a lone engineer on it? Was maybe just trying to be a little bit cheeky and drop down here to get a little bit of a foothold on this part of the island. But that's not really necessary because we've got a bunch of T1 units rolling across from the left because he's now got 4 and a 5th on the way in that position there. And then he's got another couple up here. So he's starting to get some pretty serious production capabilities for T1 units. Meanwhile, a couple of frigates out and a submarine. Now for Jagged, it looks like there's not too much out. Well, actually, it's gone with 2 submarines and a single frigate for Thistlebanger. But what is this? That managed to get the point defense completed, and it's taken out all of the mass extractors there. Very cheeky, very nice play there from Jagged. It's going to go down to the bombers eventually, but very nice play there. A little bit of a dip in eco for Thistlebanger. Alright, Jagged's just securing this part of the island, but so far not too much in the way of battle over here. Very little pushing from Jagged and not much coming this way from Thistlebanger. He's got his ACU in there. He's got a few T1 units supporting him, but really not prepared to make a push yet. He probably wants to hang around, maybe even try and overcharge. Let's just see if he even has overcharge capability yet. No, he hasn't built that power storage, but he could potentially stand on this peninsula. What is the line of sight? Yeah, I'm sure he could stand on there and shoot some boats like a grumpy old man yelling at the passing freighters. Alright, the Navy is looking pretty good for Jagged right now. He has got a serious lump of frigates sitting out here in the middle of the bay. Meanwhile, just trying to keep up with that production is the 3 factories up here for Thistlebanger. Quite a lot of assistance on this one. But does he have the eco? Why is he not able to keep up with it? Well, he's actually got a lot in storage. He could stand to invest a bit more in that Navy just to not get so far behind what Jagged is doing. Alright, we're starting to see a little bit of engagement over this side. A few Ford units from Jagged are coming into contact with a few Ford units from Thistlebanger. Not really doing too much though. There's a couple of gunships hanging around. Those guys are going to try and pick off some targets of opportunity if he can maintain air control, which is maybe a little bit doubtful because Jagged has got his interceptors pretty well organized right now. And in fact, those gunships are now very, very vulnerable to the interceptors. That's going to be quite hard to even get them out of there alive. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw all 3 of those gunships go down, especially since they're flying over frigates. Alright, we have got Jagged's ACU on upgrade right now. He's going to throw down Tech 2. And that's probably going to be followed up with a couple of triads to keep this army at bay. Meanwhile, the T2 shift has happened as well for Thistlebanger. We can see that pillars are out and about now. But the best strategy for pillars is not to park them in front of a point defense and let them get destroyed. These 2 PD plus the ACU here, and that's going to very quickly, that upgrade will be done in no time at all. That is going to stand a very good chance of making these guys back off. And what is this down here? This is Tech 2 Navy. Jagged has switched up to the Tech 2. He is pushing out Coopers. That'll give him a lot of submarine or anti-submarine capability. He's making some use of torpedo bombers. He is really pushing hard to secure the Navy right now. That is where most of investment is going. So it looks like he is going to be fairly static on here. He's going to put T2 on the ACO. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some triads and form a very static defense line over there. We're looking at a very limited amount of pushing over this side, and again we can see point defense going down, so he's definitely being very reserved here. So it looks like his strategy is to hold this part of the island, hold across here, and really just push the Navy and use that Navy to take out the eco for Thistlebanger. So I think that is probably what we're going to see. We'll see a definite Navy win here with this Tech 2, although we do have a Tech 2 upgrade as well with Thistlebanger is trying to keep up, but I suspect he just doesn't have the production capabilities. Just the 3 factories, a limited amount of assistance on that 1 T2 factory, and just look at the number of engineers down here helping build these destroyers, and a plus another 4 factories popping out frigates. So it looks like it should be a reasonably easy win. Well, actually, I may have spoke too soon, because there are another couple of factories over here. Thistlebanger having switched his naval facilities up to the left side of the map because he was under a little bit too much pressure up top. The first destroyer is out here for Thistlebanger, but down to 970 HP, well into the red. He has taken an absolute beating from the Navy and from the torpedo bombers that are coming in from Jagged. You can see Jagged really not playing the aggression card over here, just making sure he can hold against anything. We've got regular scouts going over the top so that he can make sure he holds it, and that is his entire goal right now. He is being a little bit more aggressive though on the south. He is coming up and pushing back. The ACU is, well, not building triads, it's just putting down a TAC missile defense just to make sure he doesn't get TAC sniped. But other than that, not really doing a lot. And Thistlebanger being very, very cautious. He has got a lot of pillars in that mix, but he is really, really not sure on committing them. He probably could take out a win just in sheer numerical superiority here, but he is not pushing the matter at all. Meanwhile, Jagged is building up the Navy. Well, he's got 2 destroyers out, and there's still 2 here for Thistlebanger, so it's actually really even in terms of numbers. Maybe Jagged has overinvested a little bit in land and not got the resources he needs left. Let's have a quick look at how Jagged is looking. Wow, minus 60, minus 20, minus 80. That is the sort of mass income figures we are talking about for Jagged. So he is well overspending right now, but not as badly as Thistlebanger, who is well into the red. He is struggling. He is putting everything he can into Navy. Look at all the assistance on this. That is where all of that mass is going. He's pouring everything he's got. If he can take out the Navy over JaggedAppliance, then he's in for a real shot here. It is going to come down to who can win this T2 Navy battle. There's 3 destroyers in the mix here now for Jagged, and just the 2 still, actually, no, there's no badly damaged one. That must have been taken out, I suppose. And torpedo bombers as well for Thistlebanger. And for JaggedAppliance, this is just an absolute furball of interceptors, torpedo bombers, submarines, destroyers, you name it, we got it at Thistlebanger and Jagged's Emporium of Naval Death. Wow. Who is going to come out on top? It looks like Thistlebanger is doing very well in the air, although there is a cruiser out for JaggedAppliance. It's taking a lot of damage though from that destroyer, so down it goes. That's not going to help the anti-air at all that Jagged was relying on, and it looks like Thistlebanger has actually managed to outproduce in terms of number of destroyers and sheer DPS, because he is starting to come away with a little bit of a win in the middle here. Although Jagged dropping engineers in very much on the ball with the reclaim game, very nice to see he is going to grab all of that reclaim. And it looks like there's just enough frigates and T1 subs left in the middle to make Thistlebanger pull back just a little bit. And if we look at the reclaim field, there is an absolute ton of it, and there's some of those up to 1,000 mass nearly a piece. And unfortunately for Jagged, those engineers being targeted by the destroyers, and down they go. But it looks like Thistlebanger has actually done such a fantastic job that Jagged's had to switch up to Riptides, and he's throwing that T2 hover out against the destroyers. That is not a particularly good proposition to have to be in. So those destroyers really winning the day so far for Thistlebanger. He is doing very, very well. Looks like he's upped his game a little bit early on. It looked like Jagged was probably going to be able to push him back reasonably well. Jagged just not capitalizing on that though, and he is finding himself under a lot of pressure now from Thistlebanger. And look at all these naval factories, and look how many are still planned. That's just an obscene amount of navy. Wow. And Jagged has thrown in the towel, so that amount of navy has won the day. Well done to Thistlebanger, and Jagged is going to drop down into the bottom bracket, and that is that. Alright, congratulations there to Thistlebanger. He did very, very well. He looked to be at a little bit of a disadvantage early on, but pleasantly for him, he was able to come back. That T2 naval charge was just absolutely brutal. It wrecked Jagged's navy, and that was GG.